Okay, so today I got the balancer out here on the table. This is a little table me and my son built, but the book says we should check the end play or the actual gear lash on these gears, so try to show you how I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is just set this indicator on as much of a right angle as I can. Actually, we'll give it a little bit of tension here. And I'll have to look at the book. I can't remember the spec on this. I haven't washed this up yet. It's still just a little bit oily, but what I got to do is hold this gear solid, and then we'll see what the clearance is here. Well, kind of bumping the adjuster just a little bit. It's really kind of hard to hold this one steady while you move this one. I'm moving them both. Looks like we got about 5 thousandths maybe. Not sure you can see the indicator on the camera, but if I hold that steady, and we're up against something there. Okay. I think we got about 7, 8 thousandths that way. We're going to push these apart and just kind of check out everything in it. I don't think there's much wrong with this balancer. But the way everything else is going on this rebuild, yeah, that surface there is pretty scratchy. But what you do is before you put these together, you drive these roll pins out and put them back in the housing. And then you set that back in place. So we'll check the balancer bushings. See what kind of end play we got there. We want to keep these in order. There are timing marks. They're actually on the back side of it, so they're not up here where you can actually see them easy. But there's a double mark there. And then the one that goes up to the, this one has a single mark here, and then the other mark, that's the one that lines up with the mark on the crankshaft. So you have to have those lined up that way. This is pressure oiled. These pins they're drilled, so they actually get a supply of oil out through there. Actually bigger on this end, so that won't drive out it has to come out the way the pin's on it. So keep that in mind. You got to be sure and put them back in the same way they came out. Anyway, these are a little rough. I don't know. That's not good. I don't know how long this would run like that. Probably a long time. There is a stamp on this. I don't know if it's stamp or casting, but it's 26/9/84, and I'm wondering if that isn't the same 84 that comes out on the engine bearings. I think it is, maybe. So there's that. I'm gonna look through the specs on it and see if I can figure out if I'm within spec or if I'm out of spec. I hope. Well, I may see if parts are available for these. I don't know if you can buy just the pins and bushings. It really would probably be all I would need. I don't think there's any slack in the housing itself. Seemed to fit pretty tight when I drove them out, so I think that's okay. Anyway, that is the engine balancer. Another thing I'm going to check here, I've got it cleaned up. We're going to check the actual end play in the housing. Spec says 8 to 16, and we're right at 8 on that one. You could also use a feeler gauge on this. Might be more accurate, I don't know. We got about 9 on that. Well, that's about 8 also, 8.5 thousandths up and down. I'm gonna go ahead and check the backlash one more time with it clean and dry. Everything's dry. I'm a little concerned about the bushings in the, which it probably should be. We don't want too much backlash on this. Probably shake itself to death. And a bad balancer will ruin the engine pretty quickly. So, you know, when you get this far into one, you still get concerned about saving money, but you know, I can't hold that steel right there. Need to hold it right there. Zero this out. Zeroed on 50. It's not really zero. And we moved again. That's a problem. I can't keep it. I need to clamp this somehow. Tell you what, probably just like that would be the best way to do it, and then I can concentrate on this. And then we got more of a solid reading there. So we're right at 10 thousandths backlash. I think 9 is the high end on that. Backlash between mating gears 7 to 9 thousandths. So that very well could be because the bushings are wore in the pins. I mean, we've got some up and down play there. So it looks like our balancer is, I mean, it's right at the high end on, it's right at 9. I'm not sure I got that exactly on the, I think that's pretty close. It seems to be running pretty true. So balancer's getting a little loose. Now, I would say that's probably going to need pins and bushings minimum, if they're available. If not, I'll probably need a new balancer. I think they are available. It's just another $1,000 or whatever. We're just throwing money at it. We're just going to throw money at it till we get it done. This rebuild is going to be way more expensive than what I expected. that's kind of the risk you take when you start rebuilding something. The other option was to keep running it or to sell it and buy something else to replace it. If you buy something else and replace it, you're going to be spending more money, plus you don't know for sure what you're getting. So there's a trade-off. I mean, at the point I'm at now, I think this dozer will be worth what I've got in it after the rebuild. Actually, hopefully it'll be worth a little more than that, but yeah, that's part of it. This is why a lot of people just go buy a new piece of equipment. I don't blame them. A lot less headache, a lot less worry. But my goal is to have a machine that's ready to go, ready to work, that doesn't cost me when it's sitting still and just sitting there. It's just there. Yeah, that's disappointing. Got bad news about my radiator today. It needs a new core. So that's another couple thousand extra. I thought I was just going to be paying to clean it, but after they got it cleaned, they figured out the top header, the bottom header, and had a leak in the middle. So it could have had stop leak in it. It could have just been the years of buildup from the deposits in it. But what good is a new engine without a good radiator? It's a good way to run one. Put it out in the field with a bad radiator and overheat it, and then you got, so it's only money, right? It's all gonna be okay, I keep telling myself. So need to be looking for balancer parts, and or maybe just a whole new balancer. I know there's one available. I think Abilene Machine may have one. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear down the little oil pump. I'm pretty sure it needs to be rebuilt or a new one. I think a new one's probably what we're gonna end up with, but I want to take it apart and just check it out, see what it looked like. I'm just kind of curious. Probably really no reason to. But I'm guessing this is our oil pressure regulator. Might be kind of tough to get that out of there. I don't know how tight that spring is. I guess we'll see. Pretty tight. Yikes. Just pull it out like that. Okay. So what we got there is spring retainer, a pretty worn spring. Small plunger, which has got some wear on it, but not just terrible. A little rough on this side, kind of weird, like it's been scratched up. I don't know what would cause scratches. I don't know what would cause an oil pump to get scratches in it. So let's started to. There we go. Okay, oil pump washer. See what this side looks like. It don't look too awful bad. A little scratched. The thing I'm concerned with, I noticed before I took it apart, was the amount of slack we got here. See if we can pull that idler gear out. A lot of wear on the gear tips. Let's set that back in there for a minute. I'm not sure what the specs are. I'm gonna have to look that up right quick. Okay, oil pump. We've got an in play of 2 to 4 thousandths. No, that's the drive gear. 0 to 2 thousandths is our in play for our drive gear. I didn't check that before I pulled the plate. You dummy. Come on. Alright, so let's put that back together. We're going to check the in play. Let's do it before we take it apart. How about that? I don't always do things right. A weird sounding bird. Get it set up here where we can do an in play check. Okay, so that's not the play we're looking for. We're looking for in play, but I just wanted to see if the balance or if the indicator moved. Trying to hold it there where you guys can see what's going on. So we got only about 3. No, that's less than 3. That's 2. So our in play is actually good there. That's on our idler gear, drive gear. Yeah, drive gear is 0 to 4 thousandths. Idler gear, I can tell you already, but it could be tightened. Okay, although there's not a spec for it in the book, I'm gonna show you how much slack we got in between our drive gears or our pump gears. That is over 20 thousandths. That's too much. Not gonna take a chance on that. Yeah, that's in my book. That's worn out. The book I got, like I say, doesn't really show a spec for that. Let's see, this went. So I don't know if this camera was recording or not because I need to turn the beeper on. Anyway, I decided to put it back together. This thing's worn out. The spring. Okay, like I was saying, the reason I built the table with a wood top is for the gap, so I can set stuff in there. And we got to take the U-joint off first. Good grief, that is tight. Somebody didn't want them coming loose. Always hate little bolts like that. You just can't quite get a big enough wrench on them. Oh. Snap on. I think I bent it. Didn't break though. I guess we'll just have to bend it back the other way when we get it tighten it. Man, that's tight. That is tight. I'll tap on the bolt with a punch a little bit, see if I can break loose a little bit better. see what happens now. Sometimes that'll help. Yeah, gotta get the wrench in the right spot. I think I'm probably gonna break my wrench here. So you know, a good snap-on dealer. Hey, it worked. Oh, come on. Pliers are supposed to do that by yourself. Yeah, not working out too good, is it? Yep. Alright, I broke a snap-on. Dang it. Somehow I knew that was going to happen. I've got another one, but I want to try a socket. Let's see if we can break this socket. This is a Craftsman. Let's see who's the toughest today. Snap-on or Craftsman's. Oh, that's disappointing there. Snap-on. Craftsman. But I don't have one. Let's see, is that a 9? That's a 5/8, maybe. Yeah. Alright. Going by the book, this is the direction we're supposed to go. We're supposed to pull that off. Pull the yoke. Now this wasn't leaking, but it's gonna get a new seal. Alright. Take the cover off. Okay. So when we take this off, there's supposed to be some bearings or shims under it. Sounds kind of crispy. All I see is a broken gasket right there. Maybe maybe they're under the bearing. That needs a new seal. Really surprised that hadn't been leaking. Oh, there's the shims. Okay. So we got a grand total of 2 shims in place here. One's pretty thin, I'd say probably a 5/1000, the other one maybe a 10. Just guessing. Okay. So that's what goes behind the bearing. Pretty much just says lift it out. Okay. That's our output shaft removed. That was pretty easy. Like I say, I think the bearing's probably fine. It might have been rotating a little bit in the housing, but I don't think it's like worn out or anything. Nothing a little Loctite won't fix. What next? So next we take this off, this cover. Like I say, I've never done one of these. All new to me. Couple more on the bottom. Now, I'm assuming there's probably, boy, that is just full of crud. Although that might just be a dowel pin right there. I'm thinking that's what it is. I thought it might be a bolt, a place you could put a bolt into it, and it really put us a good prime notch on there. Started to come up. Well, we got too much gap on one side, not enough on the other, apparently. I guess it's hanging up. Dowel pin. Seal kits are available for these, so. There we go. That got her loose. We still got a lot of oil in it. Look at that. Okay, I believe well, maybe not. I thought there was a hook type ring went inside of there. So let's slide this up. We'll get a look at that later. This is going to be a mess. I got a pan down here. I don't know how much oil we can catch. I'm going to tip it. See what we got in there. I think I'm supposed to take that part. Heavy, it's just kind of awkward. Might stay there. Said something about removing the. Okay, here's a hook type seal. And what those are is kind of like an it's a high pressure type seal. I don't know if you can see it down in there, but that one. They're supposed to hook together, but that one there I think wore out. It's not hooking anymore, so. But, said to remove that from that hub. I'm trying to think what we got going on here. This shaft does not spin. We've got a row of bearings here. This is the drive gear for your hydraulic assemblies, or in your hydraulic and your lift pump, basically. But the way I understand it, I think we got pressure oil comes in top of this, and there might be another hook type seal inside of here. I can't remember. I'll have to look. But anyway, the pressure feeds in here, and it has to be sealed up pretty tightly. And that's why they use a hook type seal. Interesting. Like I say, I've never gotten into one of these before, so this is I don't think there's any timing on these. I'll check before I put it together, but really, these are just drive gears, and they look pretty good. Bearings feel really good. There might be just a teeny amount, but they're just I think it's just a ball bearing. Maybe a double row, or maybe two of them. There's probably a set of two. I don't know what the allowable is on this one over here. Is a little less slack. This one's got a little more. So bearings probably wouldn't be a bad investment at this point. I used to have a really good set of them, but something I keep forgetting to get a hold of. Alright, that one's out. And it says just to drive that gear out of the hub. But the gear's sitting on my table, so I can't do that. Alright, it's free now. That might be about the right side. Okay, so when that comes out, the front bearing comes out of the housing with it. Equipment drive gear. I'll do the other side, same way. It'd be a shame to replace these US made bearings with cheap Chinese ones. You know what? Sometimes I wonder, better off just to keep running an old US bearing, or take your chances on a jump. Yeah, that's easier if that gear doesn't spin, so I'll set it back on the board there. Yeah, said it was easier. Alright, I got her coming off there now. Need smooth pliers. Another thing I need. Always something. Always something. Of course, I dropped that down in the oil pan. Twice. So, keep a mental note here. This is the drive for the, got this upside down. This gear is for the transmission pump. This is the hydraulic pump. Okay, so next, what else we got to? Ouch! That went right in the front head. There is a hook ring over this shaft here. I'm gonna go ahead and take it off. And when I say hook ring, it's supposed to hook together, but this one's wore out. It doesn't hook. So, and you can see how deeply grooved that is. Yikes, that was about to go. So, I feel better about it now, because the seal kit I got comes with new hook rings, I believe. You're gonna have to picture this flipped over, but there's a port here that comes off of the transmission, goes back to the transmission case, or comes off the torque converter and goes back to the case. And I've often wondered how they got the oil to come out of these. There's not a scavenge pump in these setups. This is the top of the case. It would line up with here. So this gear, it acts like a little bit of a pump, and it throws oil up in this chamber here, and this just vents back to the transmission. So there's not a scavenge pump per se on these. The converter side of this is actually dry. The flywheel housing is dry on this one. I think I've said that before, but just kind of wanted to get that in my mind, how this worked. I mean, they've got this kind of set up to, this gear throws oil that way and that one throws it up that way, and it catches in this little valley here. This would be the top, and just gravity flows back into the transmission. I've often wondered, the book doesn't describe how that works that well. I'm like, I know it gets oil in there somehow. Does it just pressurize and come back? But really it doesn't pressurize. It's just a gravity flow system, which that makes more sense in my mind than, yeah, I think I can understand that now. This shaft here is stationary. I'm not even sure it needs to be removed. I didn't even realize this had a stationary shaft in it, but apparently that must hold the, that's what keeps the inside of the torque converter stator from spinning. So this locks it in place. There's like 3 or 4 moving parts, I think, or maybe 2 stationary parts in there, and then, yeah, it's a bit confusing. We'll know more when we get it apart. I need to get these gears in order. I kind of lost track of them. I should have marked them as I pulled them out, but get that figured out. I'll knock these bearings out. I think we're pretty much done with this piece. I'll be ready to clean it up. So I should be able to knock those bearings out. I think I've got a punch here somewhere. Try to punch them out like that. There's that one. Okay. Now, I told you earlier this was hydraulic pump, this side. That one goes with that one. That one will go with that one. So as far as I know, we're pretty much done with tearing this down. It's gonna go get the parts washer. I'll put a zip tie through the hydraulic torque converter. Torque converter pump has that. Okay, we got shims there, we don't want to lose. These parts. Okay, so that means I'm going to throw a block of wood back under here for support. Okay, so that supports, that pushes up on the torque converter. And now we can pull that snap ring. Actually got a good set of pliers for this one, I think. They're reversed. I don't know if that's gonna work. I've got to get another set of pliers. Remembered I had a set of these in my pickup. I don't know if they're gonna work. They're a lot better than what I just had. I might be able to pry it up off there. I've got a fairly good amount of tools in my pickup. I just don't think about them when I'm in the shop. So, I've not ever been a real big fan of them things like that. I've got this pair. This is a pretty good pair I've had for years. It's just a size too small. I think it might get it. I don't know. It's close. it's real close. Oh yeah. I think we got it now. I think pretty much. There, that was not very pretty, but we got it off. Alright, this gear should come off now, I believe. Might take a bit of persuasion. There's no shims in there, there's just bearing. So this makes a little more sense looking at it in person than it did in the book. I've been trying to figure this thing out in the book. Just couldn't do it. Wear pattern on the gear teeth is pretty good, really. And this is a lot cleaner than the engine was. Okay, we got another big in there. It's the wrong pliers. It's always good to dip them in oil while you're using them. This one's going to be a hard one to get out without the right size pliers. Yeah. It's probably not coming out without the right size pliers. Yeah, it is. Okay. I think this can come off now. So that's the torque converter itself right there. I forgot to mention there is a sealing ring. There's a seal. And that housing I just pulled off. So this is the actual torque converter unit. The book just pretty much says take the bolts out of it, take it apart. So let me read through there one more time first. Seems strange to me that there's aluminum shavings coming up off of that. But it's just the bolts. Now the book says to use a soft face hammer to tap on the housing. I don't know that I just did anything there, but oh, there it goes. Just knocked the ring loose. That's it. Okay. Before I get carried away, should that be marked? The book didn't say anything about marking it, but I mark here by both holes. Center punch mark, that should be good enough. Okay, this is the inside of the torque converter. Got lots of little veins. Oil goes in and around and up and down through it. That looks like oh, that's just a bearing. That's a bearing, a washer for a bearing right there. That's for this thrust bearing right here. So that actually goes like that. I'm just going to kind of set these parts over to the side. Well, I didn't even even come out. Should come out. Just can't break the seal on the vacuum on the oil, I guess. Okay, so this comes out, and I'll just set it the other way upside down here. And this part. And you know, I don't really see a lot wrong with these bearings. So there must be another bearing. Yeah, it slides up out of the next one. Okay. I see. There's another big bearing in the front. So this is actually the driver. This is what the shaft hooked to that came out the back. The engine spins this outer housing, and it spins this part here. This part here is actually stationary inside the torque converter, if that makes sense. So somehow or another they figure out a way to get the flow to go through there, right? Simple? No, not really. So this is about how much oil just remains inside the torque converter. Go ahead and dump that out and just kind of look, see what we got in here. A little bit different deal than your car would have. Usually they're a sealed up unit. So you got a bearing in the front here. This one's probably pretty important. I'll probably want to yank that one out. You know, like I say, I've never gotten into one, but everything looks pretty good in here to me. I mean, compared to my engine, this is nice. It ain't full of dirt, but that bearing's a little bit loose. It probably ought to be replaced. Inside bearing puller, little slide hammer action here maybe. See if this will work. I think I want to pull that bearing out. It feels a little loose. Sure isn't coming out very easy. On this bearing, the slide hammer just wasn't cutting it. So, what we'll do is we'll just try to use it like a puller. And of course it's probably not going to cooperate. Why it has to be turned real easy a while ago, and now it's not turning at all. So, okay, come on. It sure helped if the threads wouldn't. Threads are binding up because, you know, slide hammer. Goodness, it finally came loose. Okay. It worked. Kinda. Sorta. Good enough. All right, so my thinking is I'm gonna at least replace the front bearing, which this is a pretty important bearing. It handles all the load of the torque converter in the front of the housing. I'm gonna clean it up, see how rough it is. It doesn't feel that bad. The other thought is the two thrust bearings that go in the middle of the stator, I think I should replace those, just because if that ever get loose, that aluminum actually can destroy stuff. We don't want to destroy anything. Yeah, that's gonna be fun to deal with later. Okay, so anyway, actually the torque converter looks pretty good in it, I think. I don't know, I've never really looked at one, but I know the book says that if there's any aluminum to aluminum touching on the between the stator and the rotor, whatever they call it, if that happens, then you got to replace all of that. That didn't happen yet, but these little thrust bearings here are kind of what keeps that from happening. So if I can replace those, that's just insurance for me to know that everything in there's not bouncing around and going to get metal to metal. So bearings, I'm probably just going to run numbers on them and go to a bearing shop maybe, or online. I ain't sure yet. Hopefully I can get a number off that one. Looks like it is but another thing, these are US made bearings, and I know the ones I buy are going to be China. Makes me sick. Anyway, that's about it for the tear down today. I'm going to clean parts up, but it's going to be next week before I get the kit for this. I should have ordered it ahead of time, but I kind of thought, well, you know, let's tear it down. We'll see what's in there first. And but like I say, the rings, the ceiling rings, I think this ring here has a seal that rides on it. I think this one comes in the kit, so that'll be refreshed. There's another seal that goes in the main housing. It'll be refreshed. I'll have a new O-ring around this. This said it had an O-ring. That's what's weird. Oh, it does. Yeah, does it? Well, it said it did. I'm getting scattered here. I think the new kit comes with a, yeah, that is an O-ring right there actually. Not an O-ring, but a square section ring. So there's a possibility that could fail. I don't know if you can see that, but it's cooked. Oh, it's cooked. So needed that. This is the seal out of the housing. It wasn't leaking that I know of. It might have been starting to seep a little bit, but you know, this stuff's just hard to get to once it's all in the cracker. So I think if I look at this right, the book says that you shouldn't replace the bearing in here and just absolutely, unless it absolutely is necessary. So I'm not going to mess with that one. It actually rides on the shaft that's in the part washer. So basically, bearing count, there's one in the front, there's one in the middle that the book says don't replace unless absolutely necessary. That's the front one. There's one on the output shaft. So we're up to 4 now, and then there's 4 on the pump drives. Actually, if you buy one of these, they're the same. This is the same bearing as they used on the pump drive, so 5 of those bearings, same size. One front bearing, and I think what I'm going to do is 2 of these and call it good. And hopefully that one, I don't know. It's a needle bearing. It could probably be replaced, but I don't know why the book says don't do it. The book says don't do it, right?